Fabulous. Thank you all for coming in person today in your bodies. These things we have to pack around and learn through. Thank you everyone online for joining us here in Bethlehem. It's really a special place. It's been great catching up with Jim and Laurel. Laurel and I sort of passed out at 10 o'clock last night. We talked so much yesterday between the channeling and catching up. We were like, well, it's enough words. So yeah, I'm going to get right to it. I think Ananda's going to come through first, and we'll see what they have to say to us. We're with you again, dear ones. We are Ananda. We are a collective consciousness. What does that mean? What is a collective consciousness? Well, it is a multiplicity of what you would call individuals who come together in the non-physical and higher dimensions to accomplish a goal. Our goal is to assist humanity in their ascension process. That is what you are all going through. You hear it over and over again. What is the ascension process? The ascension process is what happens at the end of a spiritual season. Oh, what is a spiritual season, you say? Well, it is a season just as you have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. What would happen to you if you tried to stop summer coming at the end of spring? You could, build a brick wall, put up a tent. What are you going to do to stop summer coming? There is absolutely nothing you can do to stop summer coming when it is time. The physical changes that your planet goes through at the end of a physical season are dramatic. Look here today, there is snow, there are gray skies, there are cold temperatures. Think about a summer season. What does a summer season look like? There are warm temperatures, different plants. The world actually looks different. Now, it's very interesting to us that you are also freaked out by the end of a spiritual season, because if you think about why would you freak out at the end of the winter season when the flowers begin to come, and look at the difference between winter and summer. It is a different world, is it not? It looks completely different. It feels completely different. You are able to access different things in summer than in winter. So this is what a spiritual season end looks like. So this is why we're explaining it to you, because of the structure of your minds, these egos that are inextricably hooked into your physical structure. Your ego does not exist without your body. The body and the ego are completely intertwined. And so as soon as we start using words that the physical you does not understand, the ego begins to panic and think that it's going to die because it can't predict what's coming. So you can imagine in primitive societies, when they couldn't predict what was coming, they would do things like make sacrifices to ensure that this unstable time that they were entering into would be whatever God was in charge of that transformation would be satisfied with the sacrifice. So the season would change or the light would change appropriately. These are ego-driven behaviors. So this is what happens when you don't understand what ascension means. These are the things that you panic about when you don't understand what the end of a spiritual season means. So we want you to begin to see the end of a spiritual season as winter turning to spring, turning to summer. And the absolute transformation that you experience in the physical is going to be the transformation to a similar degree as you come out of this spiritual season into another spiritual season. So there are certain plants, for example, that will weather the winter. There are certain plants that won't weather the winter, and they will have to be reseeded. So we're using some analogies here so that we can get you to understand. Our dear one's a gardener, so she's quite excited in the back seat here, knowing that we're talking about plants. So for example, if you plant a bulb in the spring, it won't work It needs to have a period of cold in the winter, a period of dormancy to be able to bloom in the spring. There are certain plants that are tender, for example, and they will set seed in the fall. The host plant will die and a new seed will germinate in the spring. You might think it's the same plant, but actually it's a different plant. So what's happening for all of you at the end of this spiritual season is that you are going through this process of, are you going to move ahead into the next season, or are you going to, we'll say, reseed yourself in the same spiritual season? Now, there are words like harvest and rapture, and these are all allusions to the same idea, which is that at the end of a spiritual season, some of you are going to reseed, some of you are going to continue on growing. Your ego thinks the reseeding is death. Your ego thinks the reseeding is a failure. Your ego thinks the reseeding is bad. What we would say to you is it doesn't matter. Now, for those of you who are spiritually ambitious, the idea of continuing on is what you want. And that's perfectly okay. We have given you, Jesus has given you all of the tools you need to have to continue on. What are those tools? Forgiveness, stopping judging everything, following your inner guidance, being authentic, being loving to yourself and others, reconfiguring your mind so you really understand what love is. Many of you think love is sacrifice. Many of you think love is suffering. You can do a survey of your society and ask this question: does love hurt? 99% of you will say yes. That's an illusion. It's not true. Love never hurts. If you were in a relationship with somebody and it hurt, that was not love. So you can see how this clarification of the collective consciousness has to happen when so many of you would say love hurts, or I'm afraid of love. That's because you've called something else love. It wasn't love that hurt you. It was separation or fear or violence or something, which are manifestations of fear and separation. So this is a long way of us saying, this is what we are here to help you with. We are here to help you understand what love is. We are here to help you practice. We nag you. We say the same things over and over again, but it's because you keep doing the same things over and over again, and you keep thinking the same things over and over again, and you keep judging others and systems and these kinds of things over and over again. So when you repeat, we repeat, because you can say, I understand, but when you truly know, you will see it reflected in your behavior. You will see it reflected in your behavior that you stop judging, that you stop fearing death, for example. So death is an illusion associated with the ego and the body. You never die. Most of you will say, well, that's not true. My husband died 2 years ago. What we say is his spirit vacated a structure, and so the structure fell to the ground. You have seen the movie Avatar. You remember when they create the bodies and they inhabit the bodies and they are sleeping somewhere else while the avatar is walking around. And if they get unplugged, then the avatar falls to the ground. So the avatar didn't die. The avatar was vacated. That is what death is. Your soul has vacated the structure. The structure never lived. And this is something that we want to get into today. Your body is not living. It is animated by your spirit. When the spirit goes, the body is a corpse. You are actually animating a corpse, and you think the corpse has life of its own. It doesn't. It is you. So when you pass over, when you transition, let's say, from this dimension to another dimension, this level of consciousness to another level of consciousness, this whole idea of death has to be rethought. people are not dying, they are abandoning their physical structures because they no longer have use for it where they are moving to. Their consciousness is moving to another level. So the reason we're talking about this right now is because a lot of people are going to be leaving this planet. They have already started. There is a mass exodus happening. Why is there a mass exodus happening on this planet at this time? Because it's the end of a spiritual season. Those that are leaving are reseeding. They are not moving on to the next level. They are receding because, and we say reseeding, not R-E-C-E-D-I-N-G, reseeding, R-E-S-E-E-D-I-N-G, reseeding. They are going back to work on things that they have not been able to accomplish. So what you are seeing here as a mass exodus, as a disaster, as a bad thing, and we will say no soul returns home accidentally, no soul returns home without having decided beforehand that this is what's happening. The mass exodus was decided upon, and that is what you're beginning to see the early stages of right now, the mass exodus. So it's very, very important for those of you that may carry on through into the next spiritual season, that you are not devastated by this, that you are not heartbroken by this, that you are not looking at your uncle or auntie or whoever it is that is going home. It's so important that you do not allow this to ruin the rest of your life. And you will say, but that's impossible. What if my partner dies? Or what if my mother dies early? Whatever it is, we want you to understand that this is their choice, because they are not moving into the next phase of life on this planet. And they had a choice to go, and they said, yes, I'll go. And they decided to go together because at the end of a spiritual season, it is what you would call a global phenomenon. The global phenomenon is, this is where the fork in the road is. Now, if you're walking along a road and you decide to go left and the person you're with decides to go right, you have to make a decision. So the decision is made in spirit before you came into physical form. I'm going to take the left path, you're going to take the right path. You agree with each other in spirit that this is what's going to happen. But of course, when you make that agreement, you don't have bodies, you know that life is eternal, you know that you are together forever, that you love each other truly, and that you are walking this path on this particular piece of road for a while together. But there's going to be a fork in the road. And as you walk along the fork in the road, you say goodbye to each other. Initially, you can still see and hear each other. Initially, you're close enough to wave and go, oh, how's your road? And you're like, oh, good, how's your road? But as you get further and further, and as those roads diverge, there's going to come a time when you can't see each other. And that is what's happening now. You are, for various reasons, some of you are diverging from a path that other earthlings are taking. So we're telling you this so that you can reconfigure this story, because what we're seeing and feeling and hearing is the beginning of deep grief and anger at the Exodus. And the Exodus is not accidental. The Exodus is a part of the end of a spiritual season. So just as the leaves fall from a tree at the end of autumn and disappear and die, if you didn't understand that the tree goes dormant for a winter and then blooms again, you would say the tree is dead, right? You'd look at the leaves and you'd see the bare branches, no life, no sap running. You would say it's dead. And this is what you are getting caught up with on earth as you are taught about the body and death and dying here. You have been told that it's the autumn, the leaves are falling, the tree is dead. And then you're heartbroken. So this is a most important time for this. Many of you are hearing about increasing death numbers and inexplicable increase in death numbers. And we want you to really take this to heart today. This idea that the body has been vacated and that the spirit has moved on. What you have to do to be at peace and to continue to be happy is you have to tell the right story. If you say, I have lost my beloved, I have lost this person, they are dead, I'm never going to see them again, this shouldn't have happened, those thoughts are going to cause you suffering. And that suffering will be self-induced because you are believing thoughts that are untrue. The suffering is your clue from your guidance system and your guides and teachers that you are way off track in how you're interpreting what's happening. If you have the correct story, now this isn't to say that you're not going to have some sadness or some tears, but deep, long-lasting grief comes from being off track. It comes from telling the wrong story. So we want you all to begin to work on this now, this retelling of a story. Oh, they are not dying. They have taken a different fork in the road. They are reseeding. This is the beginning of something new for them. You see how you can, the story you tell will completely change the feeling you have. When you tell a true story, they are reseeding, they are beginning a new phase of learning, then you feel a sense of optimism. You say, oh, that would be very exciting for them to decide to vacate this particular form and body and structure and time, place, reality to go into a new adventure. So this is really what we are seeding in you today. We are seeding in you this idea that you must prepare yourselves for a lot of people going home. So what does this do for the ascension process? Well, what this does, it means you are in alignment with truth. It means that you are going to feel good. Again, we're not saying that you're not going to shed some tears. A very few people are going to be able to witness and experience these kinds of numbers of people passing without having some negative emotion. That is okay. We are concerned about the prolonged, deep, debilitating grief that will come if you have the wrong story. So your ability to integrate this story is going to allow you to carry on your consciousness journey. If you get deep, long-term debilitating grief, anger, rage, these kinds of things, you are not going to be able to continue your journey because you will not be of a frequency match for what is coming. You see, the earth is in fact evolving herself. The planet itself is going through consciousness evolution. And this is one of the things that is difficult for you to understand because you've been taught that the earth is a bunch of rocks and water and volcanoes and magma and a bit of dirt on top. That's what you've been told it is. It's inanimate. Well, it moves, but it's not consciousness. It is in fact conscious. It is in fact a highly evolved being that has allowed you all to live on her. She has allowed you all to be here. And what she is going through now is an evolution, a frequency evolution, an increase in vibratory rate that is going to be too much for those who are not at a high vibratory rate. And that is why they decided to go, because they could not match the vibratory rate. So what some of you may be witnessing at this time is, well, it's called ascension madness, people not being able to cope with what's happening, the changes that are happening, not being able to be flexible and move and decide, oh, well, this door has closed, but I'm going to open this door over here. Ascension madness is the beginning stages of a consciousness that is vibrating too low for the vibration that the earth is emitting. So what's happening is the raising of the frequency of the planet is raising the frequency of the consciousness, and it's happening too fast because they were not doing the work. So they were not doing the forgiveness work. They were not being more loving. They were not making all of the choices that we talk to you about. They have been entrenched in old ways, hooked into violence, hooked into pornography, hooked into addiction. And as the frequency of the planet is increasing, everything that's not in alignment with the frequency of the planet is surfacing, giving them an opportunity to heal it, albeit a bit overwhelming for them. But this is what the end of a spiritual season is. It gives you the opportunity to deal with your addiction, to deal with your resentments, to deal with all these things. But if you choose not to, you will not be able to manage living in the frequency of this acceleration. So that's what's happening. And those who are leaving for that reason. They knew that they would not be of a frequency to continue on. So they said, well, when this place hits a certain frequency, then we'll go. So what we want you to understand is the framing of your story can turn something from a catastrophe into a place of acceptance. And that's what we're really working with you here today to get you to understand. It's really, really important that you understand that the vacating spirits knew that they could not match the frequency. Those that are left behind are going to be of a frequency match to the elevated frequency of this new earth. So what a transformation this planet is going through. What a huge hiccup, if you will, that you are choosing to experience here. And we in non-physical and the higher dimensions take our hats off to you for being willing to shift and change your consciousness to ride this wave. You have seen surfers trying to ride a wave. It's not an easy thing. There's strength required and yet flexibility. There's awareness required and focus. There's so much required to get that surfboard to skim across the top of that wave. Not a thing to be distracted by, oh, there's a plane in the sky. You're going to fall off, right? If you fall off your surfboard. If you look around, if someone calls your name, boom, you're in the water. So what we're saying to you is focus. This is a time for focus. The wave is building. You are paddling on your surfboard. You're like, I'm going to ride this wave. There are others that are behind you that aren't going to ride this wave. There are others that have ridden the wave before. This is the wave for you, and you can feel the energy building, and you're paddling and paddling and paddling, and you're starting to get to the point where you're going to have to hop up on your board and you're going to have to focus. This is what the Course in Miracles mind training program is for. This is what it's for. It's to get you to focus your mind so that you can stand up on your board and you can ride that wave. This is a spiritual wave, an energetic wave that you are going to need to be focused and trained to ride. So this is why A Course in Miracles came in 50 years ago. It came in 50 years ago for this time, so that there would be beings who could produce it, so that there could be beings who printed it, so that there could be beings who published it, so that there could be beings who edited it, so that there could be beings who learned it. That's a 20-year process right there that we just described, 20 years to get to that point where it's all printed and published and people are reading it and teachers are being formed. 20 years. The next 20 years is those teachers teaching and sharing and people studying and reading. You've all been doing the course. You know it takes years and years and years to train your mind. And then you get to this place of peace, and then you begin to connect into your own guidance, your own guides and teachers that say, and now this is your assignment. That's a 40-year process there. So this last 10 years, we have, with Jesus and other beings who are coming through different channels that are associated with this teaching, are bringing this teaching to the world through many, many different portals, so that you can be prepared to ride the wave. So 50 years seems like a long time, but when you're dealing with humans, oh, it's not so long. Not so long. Slow learners, slow learners. We referred to this yesterday, 12 years to train a human mind, 12 years of intense focus and discipline locking you in the room, right? Your teachers, you can't go out whenever you wanted to. Bells and recesses and homework, 12 years of that is what trained you. Now, if you are a dedicated Course in Miracles student, yes, you can do it in 12 years. If you're lackadaisical and not very focused, oh, it might take longer, Our dear one's been doing it for 20 years. Still a bunch of issues there that she's been avoiding, and she's fine with it. She says to us, you knew who you were getting. You knew that I wouldn't do as I was told. You knew. And we say to her, yeah, but you are the one who is going to have the experience of being out of alignment. So you choose. So this is what we are saying. Now is the time for you to say to yourself, I call myself we're saying, pretending we're you. I call myself a spiritual student. Spirituality is so important to me. And what does your day look like? Are you completely oblivious of your spiritual practice for 8 hours a day while you're busy in the world? Or are you taking that 5 minutes each hour to remind yourself of your priorities? Or are you telling a story to yourself? Oh, yes, I'm a Course in Miracles student. What was your lesson today? No idea. No idea. Don't know. Well, we want you to imagine a big wave coming, and you can ride the wave if you know how. And that's what we're saying to you today is do the work. Whenever you get upset about anything, take a step back and ask yourself, what has this brought up in me? Not this person's a jerk for saying something that upset me, because if they say words are symbols, they're sounds, ba, 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 sounds. If I go to ba, ba, ba to you and you get angry, it's not the ba, ba, ba. The anger was in you. The upset was in you. And this is what forgiveness looks like. I'm anxious. What's going on? Oh, I'm afraid that I won't get paid next week. I'm anxious. What's going on? My partner's late. Is he having an affair? The anxiety is coming from within you. All that's happening is a body didn't walk through the door at the right time. That's what's actually happening. A body did not walk through the door at 6 p.m. A body walks through the door at 7 p.m. He's having an affair is in you. It's not in him. And if you have that belief, he's having an affair, most likely that will manifest in the world because it's in you and you are the projector, you are the creator. So this is what your forgiveness work is for. It's to save you from your own crazy mind. You think it's some esoteric spiritual practice. Forgiveness is actually so that you are not miscreating crazy circumstances out in the screen of life that you call the world.